The Lotta Hotel lobby smelled like old money and fresh lilies until my son shattered the silence. Appa, Appa, wait! Minho's voice cut through the marble and gold like a knife through silk. My stomach dropped. I lunged for his hand, but he was already gone, sneakers squeaking across polished floors as he sprinted toward the elevator bank. Toward them, four men in custom suits, four alphas who shouldn't exist in the same room without bloodshed, let alone standing together like they owned the building, which, knowing Seoul's underworld, they probably did. Minho, stop! Too late. My 5-year-old son crashed into the tallest one's legs, wrapping small arms around knees that went rigid as steel. The alpha looked down, dark eyes cold and calculating, a thin scar running from cheekbone to jaw. His scent hit me a second later, cedar and gunpowder, familiar in a way that made my chest tighten without permission. No, 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 no. The other three turned, the one with the charming smile and dangerous eyes, the silent one with ink-black hair and a sniper's focus, the warmest-looking one whose gaze found mine and held. I knew those faces, knew them the way you know a dream that won't let go, even 6 years later. Conversations died, phones came out, the entire lobby became a theater, and I was standing center stage in jeans and a wrinkled sweater, my son hugging a Mafia boss like he'd found his favorite toy. Appa, Minho said again, beaming up at Scarface like he'd just won the lottery. You came back. The alpha's jaw tightened. His hand moved, slow, uncertain, and settled on Minho's head. Who taught you to call strangers that? His voice was rough, familiar. It scraped against my memory like nails on old wounds. I forced my legs to work, crossing the lobby on autopilot. Every alpha eye tracked me. Security guards shifted near the front desk, unsure whether to intervene when the men involved probably owned 40% of this hotel. Minho, my voice came out steadier than I felt. Come here, now. But Mommy said, Minho. He finally let go, but his face crumpled with confusion. The alphas hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, just stared at me like I was a ghost they'd summoned by accident. The scarred one, Kwan Tai Sung, my brain supplied helpfully, because apparently trauma had excellent recall, crouched down to Minho's level. Studied my son's face with the same intensity I'd seen him use on contracts 6 years ago, right before everything went to hell. What's your name? Taesung asked. Shin Minho. How old are you, Minho? 5. I'll be 6 next month. The math clicked. I saw it happen in real time. 4 pairs of eyes widening, 4 alpha sense sharpening with something between shock and possession. The air in the lobby shifted, crackling with tension that made my Omega instinct scream run. But I'd stopped running 3 years ago. Taesung's gaze snapped to mine. His nostrils flared. That's very specific timing. Around us, the lobby transformed into a gossip mill. Whispers built like static. I felt my scent spike. Orange blossoms and anxiety. Impossible to hide when 4 alphas were staring at me like I'd stolen something precious, which technically I had. We need to talk, Taesung said, rising to his full height. Imposing. Overwhelming. Everything I'd run from 6 years ago. Now! There's nothing to talk about. My hands trembled as I grabbed Minho's shoulders. This was a mistake. We're leaving. Is it? The warm one, Choi Ye-jun, stepped forward. His scent was softer. Vanilla and rain. It made my chest ache. A mistake! I tried to move around them. They didn't touch me. Didn't need to. Just existed in my path like walls made of certainty and barely controlled fury. Please, I whispered, hating how my voice shook. Just let us go. Taesung pulled out his phone with one hand, pressed a single contact. Someone answered on the first ring. Clear my afternoon. Everything. A pause, his eyes never left mine. Find out everything about Shin Jiwon, full background. Where he's staying. Flight details. I want it in an hour. He ended the call. Slipped the phone back into his pocket like he'd just ordered coffee, not surveillance. The playful one, Han Jiwoo, tilted his head. His smile didn't reach his eyes. You really thought you could come back to Seoul and we wouldn't find out? I didn't think... I stopped. Breathed. Minho pressed against my leg, sensing the shift in atmosphere the way children always did. We're just here for a medical conference. We're leaving in 3 days. 3 days, the quiet one, Park Min-seo repeated. His voice was silk over steel. That's not nearly enough time. Tae-sung pulled a key card from his inner pocket, held it out. Penthouse suite. 1 hour, bring him. I'm not, or I'll come find you both. His voice dropped, intimate and dangerous. And trust me, Jiwon, you won't like how public that conversation becomes. My hand shook as I reached for the key card. Our fingers brushed for just a second. The contact sent recognition jolting through my nervous system. Muscle memory from a night that had branded itself into my bones despite every effort to forget. I snatched it back. 1 hour, then we're done. We'll see about that. I turned, practically dragging Minho toward the exit. He looked back over his shoulder, waving with innocent friendliness. All 4 alphas raised their hands in return. And I realized with sinking certainty that running had just stopped being an option. My pulse stuttered. The cool Seoul air hit my face as we pushed through the hotel's glass doors, but it did nothing to calm the wildfire burning under my skin. Minho tugged my hand. Why were those men so tall? Because they drink too much milk, I muttered, scanning the street for a taxi. My phone buzzed. Then again. And again. I pulled it out with my free hand. 3 messages. All from numbers I didn't have saved but recognized anyway. Unknown number 1 penthouse. 55 minutes. Unknown number 2. Running won't work this time, Jiwon. Unknown number 3. Please come. We just want to talk. The third one was Yejun. Had to be. Still using please-like manners could soften 6 years of silence. I shoved the phone back in my pocket and flagged down a taxi. Gangnam, the Riverside Hotel. Minho climbed in, chattering about the fancy lobby and the nice tall men. I barely heard him. My mind was too busy cataloging exits, calculating how fast I could pack, whether we could make it to Incheon Airport before. My phone rang. I stared at the screen. Unknown number, different from the text. Against every instinct screaming at me to ignore it, I answered. 47 minutes. Tae-sung's voice was cold, professional, the same tone he'd used 6 years ago when negotiating territory disputes between rival families. That key card is tracked. I'll know the moment you use it, or don't. You can't just... Can I? I own that hotel, half the businesses in Gangnam, and if that boy is what I think he is... He paused. The silence was heavier than words. We're well past the point of can't. The line went dead. I squeezed my phone hard enough that the case creaked. Minho looked up at me with those wide brown eyes. My eyes, except for the shape. That was all alpha. I just didn't know which alpha. The taxi pulled up to our hotel 20 minutes later. I paid, grabbed Minho's hand, and headed for the elevator. Our room was on the 3rd floor. Small, clean, temporary. Like everything in my life had been for the past 6 years. I unlocked the door and froze. Someone had been here. Nothing obvious. No ransacked drawers or overturned furniture. But my medical bag had been moved 3 inches to the left. Minho's stuffed elephant, the one he never let anyone touch, was facing the wrong direction on the bed. My Omega instincts flared. I pushed Minho behind me, scanning the room for threats. Empty, but the message was clear. We can reach you anywhere. Mommy? Minho's voice was small, scared. What's wrong? I forced a smile. Nothing, baby. Just making sure we didn't forget anything. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a text. It was a photo. Me and Minho at Incheon Airport 2 days ago. Getting into a taxi, walking through Myeongdong Market yesterday. All taken from a distance, but close enough to make my blood run cold. Another message followed. You have 32 minutes. Bring him or we come to you. I looked down at Minho, at his innocent face, his messy hair, his little hand gripping my shirt like I could protect him from anything. 6 years. I'd kept him safe for 6 years by staying invisible. One mistake, one accidentally shouted appa in a hotel lobby, and everything I'd built was crumbling. I pulled out the key card Tae-sung had given me, turned it over in my hands. Minho tugged my sleeve. Are we going to see the tall men again? Yeah, baby. I crouched down, cupped his face in my hands. We are. But I need you to promise me something. If mommy says run, you run, okay? No questions, no looking back, just run. His eyes got big. Like a superhero? Exactly like a superhero. I kissed his forehead, breathing in his scent, milk and sunshine in mine. Can you do that for me? He nodded solemnly. I stood, grabbed our passports from the safe, stuffed them in my jacket pocket along with the emergency cash I always kept hidden. Then I took Minho's hand and headed back downstairs. The taxi ride back to Loda Hotel took 15 minutes. Every second felt like borrowed time. We walked through the lobby, quieter now, fewer witnesses, and headed straight for the private elevator bank, the one that required a key card for access. I swiped Taesung's card. The doors opened immediately. Minho's hand tightened in mine as we stepped inside. The elevator was all glass and polished steel, reflecting our faces back at us. I looked tired, scared. Nothing like the confident Omega I'd pretended to be for 6 years. The numbers climbed. 10, 20, 30. My scent spiked again. Orange blossoms turning bitter with anxiety. I tried to suppress it, but my body had other ideas. Omega biology was a bitch like that. Fear made you vulnerable, made you readable. The elevator slowed. 45th floor, penthouse level. The doors slid open. 4 alphas stood waiting, not in the penthouse, right there in the hallway like they couldn't wait even 60 more seconds. Taesung in the center, arms crossed. Jiwoo leaning against the wall with that dangerous smile. Minseo silent and still as death. Yejun with his hands in his pockets, eyes soft and regretful. Their scents hit me all at once. Cedar and gunpowder, leather and smoke, rain and stone. Vanilla and something darker, richer, almost like caramel. My knees went weak because my body remembered. 6 years hadn't erased the way their scents tangled together, the way they'd surrounded me that night, the way I'd felt safe and terrified and whole all at once. Minho stepped forward. Hi again. Taesung's eyes dropped to him. Something shifted in his expression, softened, just barely. Hi, Minho. Then those dark eyes lifted to mine. Come inside, Jiwon. We have a lot to talk about. I didn't move. Couldn't. My feet felt welded to the hallway floor while 4 pairs of alpha eyes tracked every breath I took. We can stand here all night, Jiwoo said, pushing off the wall with that lazy grace that screamed danger. But I think the kid might get bored. Minho tugged my hand. Mommy, I'm hungry. Traitor. Fine. I stepped forward, chin up, shoulders back. If I was walking into a trap, I'd do it with some dignity. But he stays where I can see him. Non-negotiable. Taesung's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Agreed. The penthouse was obscene. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. Furniture that probably cost more than I'd made in the past year. A kitchen bigger than my entire apartment back in Lagos. And in the corner, a play area. Brand new toys still in packaging. A tablet loaded with kids' games, like they'd known we were coming. Minho, Yejun said gently, gesturing toward the setup. Want to play while the adults talk? My son looked up at me. I nodded, even though every instinct screamed to keep him close. He ran off, already tearing into a box of building blocks. The moment he was out of earshot, the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Sit, Taesung gestured to the massive sectional sofa. I'll stand, thanks. I crossed my arms. You want to talk? Talk. You've got 20 minutes before I take my son and leave. Leave to where? Minseo spoke for the first time since the lobby. His voice was quiet, deadly. Your hotel room that someone broke into an hour ago? My blood went cold. How did you? Because we're the ones who had it swept for bugs. Yejun stepped closer, hands still in his pockets. Non-threatening. Like that made any of this okay. Someone's been watching you since you landed, Jiwon. Professional surveillance. We intercepted chatter this morning. Chatter about what? About him. Taesung nodded toward Minho. About the connection to us. The Park family knows you're here. They know about the boy. The Parks, of course. The same bastards who tried to kill these 4 6 years ago at that charity gala. The night everything went wrong. The night I got pregnant. Why would they care about a random kid? I kept my voice steady, bored, like my heart wasn't trying to break through my ribs. Don't play dumb. Jiwoo circled behind me. I tracked him by scent alone. You're smart enough to know what he represents. An heir, leverage, a weapon. He's 5 years old. He's ours. Taesung's voice cut through the room like a blade. Isn't he? The question hung in the air. Minho's laughter drifted from the play corner, oblivious to how his entire world was about to shift. I could lie, could deny it, could grab my son and run and keep running until we disappeared into some corner of the world they'd never find. But I was tired. 6 years of looking over my shoulder, 6 years of jumping at shadows, 6 years of pretending I didn't see their faces every time I looked at my son. Which one of you wants to claim him? I asked instead. Because I sure as hell don't know. 4 alpha scents sharpened simultaneously. The air in the room turned electric. What do you mean you don't know? Yejun's voice cracked. Just slightly. I laughed. It came out bitter. That night, the gala, someone spiked my drink. I remember pieces, flashes, 4 alphas who smelled like safety, a penthouse suite, waking up alone with a note that said, "Forget me." I met Taesung's eyes. So yeah, I don't know which one of you is his biological father. For all I know, it could be any of you. Silence. Then Minseo moved, fast. He grabbed a tablet from the coffee table, pulled up a photo and shoved it in my face. Security footage. Time-stamped 6 years ago. Me stumbling into a private elevator, held up by all 4 of them. Their faces were carved with worry, protectiveness, nothing predatory, nothing violent. We didn't touch you like that, Minseo said quietly. Someone poisoned your drink to get to us. We got you out, kept you safe. You were heat sick, delirious. We called a doctor, stayed until your fever broke. Then we left because men like us. He stopped, breathed. We destroy everything we touch. You were supposed to be safe from that. Safe? My voice rose. I couldn't stop it. I was pregnant and alone in a foreign country. I came back to Seoul looking for you. Found out you were some kind of... I gestured at the opulent penthouse. The obvious wealth wrapped in danger. Criminal empire. So yeah, I decided for both of us. You decided I didn't deserve to know I had a child. Taesung's hands curled into fists. You decided I wasn't worth staying for. The shout echoed. Minho's head popped up from his blocks. Mommy? I forced a smile. I'm okay, baby. Just talking. He went back to building. I turned back to the 4 alphas staring at me like I'd ripped their hearts out. One of us is his father, Jiwoo said slowly, but we don't know which. Welcome to my life. Yejun moved closer. His scent wrapped around me, warm and familiar and aching. We can fix this. DNA test, medical records. We can figure it out. And then what? I challenged. The winner gets custody? The other 3 walk away? You think that's how this works? No. Taesung's voice was steel. We all claim him, all 4 of us. As pack. My breath caught. That's insane. So is letting the parks use him as leverage. Minseo pulled up more photos on his tablet. Me and Minho being followed, tracked, hunted. They won't stop, Jiwon. Not until they have something to use against us. I looked at my son, at his innocent smile, at the future I'd tried so hard to build alone. How do I keep him safe? My voice broke. Let us in, Yejun whispered. Let us protect both of you. Before we continue, subscribe and drop a comment telling me which alpha you think is Minho's biological father. Your theories keep this story alive. I stared at him, at all 4 of them. Their scents were still tangled around me, making it hard to think straight, making my Omega biology hum with recognition it had no right to feel. Protection comes with strings, I said carefully. What do you want in return? Taesung's expression didn't change. Time. To figure out who his father is. To end the park threat. To... He paused and, for the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. To know him. Him, not me. You're a package deal. Jiwoo's smile was sharp. Can't have one without the other, pretty thing. I shot him a look. Call me pretty thing again, and I'll show you exactly where I can shove that charm. He laughed, actually laughed. There he is, the firecracker from 6 years ago. That Omega is dead, I said flatly. This one has a kid to protect and zero patience for alpha posturing. Noted. Min Seo's lips twitched, almost a smile. But posturing aside, you have two options. Stay here under our protection, or go back to your hotel and wait for the parks to make their move. That's not a choice. That's a threat. It's reality. Taesung moved to the window, staring out at Seoul's neon sprawl. They've already marked you, already tracked your patterns. It's only a matter of time before they escalate from surveillance to action. My hands curled into fists. I hated this. Hated being backed into a corner. Hated that they were right. Minho appeared at my side, tugging my jacket. Mommy, can we stay? They have the new Spider-Man game. 4 pairs of alpha eyes swiveled to him, then to me, waiting. I looked down at my son, at his hopeful face, at the innocence that had no idea his existence had just painted a target on both our backs. 1 week, I said through gritted teeth. You get 1 week to handle the park situation. Then we're gone. Deal. Taesung turned from the window. But not here. The penthouse is too exposed. We move you to the compound tonight. Compound? I repeated the word like it tasted bad. You mean your fortress in Gangnam Hills where you probably torture people in the basement? Jiwoo grinned. Only on Tuesdays. That's not funny. Wasn't joking. Yejun stepped between us, hands raised. Peacemaker. Always the peacemaker. The compound has better security, discreet location, armed guards. Everything you and Minho need to stay safe. Everything except freedom. Freedom doesn't mean much if you're dead, Min Seo said quietly. I wanted to argue, wanted to throw their protection back in their faces and prove I could handle this alone. But 6 years of single parenthood had taught me one critical lesson. Pride was a luxury I couldn't afford. Fine, we'll go. I grabbed Minho's hand. But I need to get our things from the hotel first. Already handled. Taesung pulled out his phone, showed me a text. My men packed your belongings 30 minutes ago. 3 bags, everything you had in that room. My jaw dropped. You went through my stuff? We secured your belongings from a compromised location, he corrected. There's a difference. The difference being consent, which you didn't have. Would you have given it? That's not the point. Minho tugged my hand again. Mommy, why are you yelling? I took a breath, forced my voice to soften. I'm not yelling, baby. Just having a passionate discussion. It sounds like yelling. Adults are weird like that. Taesung crouched down to Minho's level. The movement was careful, uncertain, like he was approaching a wild animal that might bolt. Minho, how would you like to see a real koi pond, with fish as big as your arm? My son's eyes went wide. Really? Really? In a training room where people practice taekwondo, ever seen someone break a board with their bare hands? No way. Way. Taesung's mouth curved, almost a smile. It transformed his entire face, softening the sharp edges into something almost gentle. Want to come see? Minho looked up at me. Can we, Mommy? Please? 4 alphas, 1 compound, no escape route. Everything in me screamed this was a mistake. But when I looked at those security photos again, at the black sedans following us through Seoul, at the proof that we'd never been safe to begin with. Okay, I whispered. We'll go. The ride to Gangnam Hills took 40 minutes in an armored SUV with tinted windows. Minho pressed his face to the glass, chattering about the city lights. I sat rigid between Yejun and Min Seo, hyper-aware of every brush of fabric, every shift of scent. Taesung sat up front with the driver. Jiwoo rode in the tail car with the security team. You're safe, Yejun said quietly. His hand rested on the seat between us. Not touching, just there. I know you don't believe that yet, but you are. I've been safe for 6 years by not needing anyone. That's not safety, that's survival. His brown eyes found mine, warm, sad. There's a difference. The compound rose from the hills like something out of a historical drama. Traditional Korean architecture merged with modern security. Curved tile roofs and stone walls hiding cameras and sensors. The main gate required 3 levels of biometric verification before the iron doors swung open. Minho gasped. It's like a castle. Close enough, Minseo murmured. We pulled into a courtyard lit by lanterns. A koi pond shimmered under moonlight, cherry trees framing stone paths. In the distance, a separate building stood apart from the main house. The dojo Taising had mentioned. It was beautiful. It was a prison, and I just walked into it willingly. The SUV stopped. Taisung opened my door, offering his hand. I ignored it, climbing out on my own. Minho scrambled after me, already running toward the koi pond. Careful, I called after him. An older woman emerged from the main house. Late 50s, gray streaking her black hair, wearing a hanbok that somehow made her look both traditional and formidable. Mrs. Kang, Taisung said, our guests have arrived. Her face softened when she saw Minho. So this is the young master everyone's talking about. He's not a master, he's just a kid. Of course, she bowed slightly. I've prepared the east wing, 3 rooms, sitting area, your bedroom, and a smaller room for the child. Thank you, she smiled. And perhaps the young one would like some tteokbokki? My grandson loves them. Minho's head whipped around. What's that? Rice cakes with spicy sauce. I can make them mild. Can I, Mommy? 4 alphas watching, 1 housekeeper smiling, my son looking happier than he had in weeks. Yeah, baby, you can. Mrs. Kang extended her hand. Minho took it without hesitation, already asking a million questions as she led him toward the kitchen. Leaving me alone with 4 alphas in a courtyard that smelled like cherry blossoms in danger. Your room is this way, Yejun said gently. I followed. Because what choice did I have? The east wing was elegant, minimalist furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden, a low table with cushions for tea, the kind of space that cost more per night than most people's monthly rent. Bathroom through there, Yejun gestured. Closet has basics if you need them. Mrs. Kang will bring your bags up shortly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He lingered in the doorway. Jiwon, I know this isn't ideal, but what? But I should be grateful. But I should trust 4 alphas I haven't seen in 6 years? But I should just hand over my son and hope for the best? The words came out sharper than intended. His expression didn't change. Just sad, understanding. But you're not alone anymore, whether you want to be or not. He left before I could respond. I sank onto the bed's edge, head in my hands. My scent was all over the place. Orange blossoms turned sour with stress. I tried to suppress it, but my body wasn't cooperating. A knock at the door, soft, hesitant. Come in, I called, expecting Mrs. Kang. Minseo entered instead, carrying a tray. Tea, rice crackers, sliced fruit arranged with precision that screamed military training. Thought you might be hungry. He set the tray on the low table. You didn't eat at the penthouse. I wasn't hungry. You're still not. But you should eat anyway. He poured tea with steady hands. Your scent is stressed. Food helps. I stared at him, at this quiet alpha who'd barely spoken 2 words but somehow noticed I hadn't eaten. Why do you care? Because 6 years ago you stitched up a bullet wound in my side and didn't ask questions. His dark eyes met mine. You saved my life. The least I can do is make sure you eat. The memory hit like a punch. Blood on expensive tile, my hands shaking as I threaded a needle. 4 alphas surrounding me, protecting me, while their enemies hunted them through the hotel. I thought that was a fever dream, I whispered. It wasn't. He sat across from me, careful to maintain distance. Everything that night was real. The attack, the poison in your drink, us getting you to safety. What happened after? He stopped. That part gets fuzzy for all of us too. Convenient. Honest. His voice was quiet, steady. We've spent 6 years trying to piece it together. Security footage shows us carrying you to the penthouse. Medical records confirm a doctor was called. Heat suppressants were administered. But there's a 4-hour gap where the cameras were disabled. My stomach dropped. Disabled by who? We're still working on that. A 4-hour gap. 4 alphas, 1 omega in heat sickness, and one child who shouldn't exist. This doesn't make sense, I said slowly. Suppressants would have stopped a heat cycle. I shouldn't have been fertile. There's no way, unless the suppressants were tampered with. Minseo pulled out his phone, showed me a medical report. We had the doctor's records pulled. The suppressants he administered were counterfeit, designed to look real but do nothing. Someone wanted me to go into heat. The realization turned my blood to ice. Someone wanted me pregnant. Or someone wanted leverage against us. His jaw tightened. A child would do that, especially one tied to all four of us. But he can't be tied to all four. That's biologically impossible. Minseo's expression shifted. Something flickered in his eyes. Knowledge, certainty, fear. Show me your wrist, he said quietly. What? Your wrist, please. I held out my hand, confused. He turned it gently, examining the inside of my wrist, where my scent gland pulsed just beneath the skin. His breath caught. What? I tried to pull away. What is it? You have 4 scent markers. The room tilted. That's not possible. Look. He grabbed his phone, turned on the flashlight, held it close to my skin. 4 faint lines, silvery, almost invisible unless you knew what to look for. Each one a different shade. Cedar and gunpowder, leather and smoke, rain and stone, vanilla and caramel. Oh God, my voice broke. How is this possible? I don't know. Minseo's hands were shaking now. Actually shaking. But Minho, he called all 4 of us appa in that lobby. Not just one, all 4. Kids make mistakes. Do they? His eyes bore into mine. Or do they recognize what we can't? Footsteps in the hallway. The door swung open without warning. Taesung strode in, Jiwoo right behind him. Their scents were sharp, aggressive. We have a problem, Taesung said. Another one. I stood, pulse racing. What now? Jiwoo held up a tablet. Security footage. Minho in the kitchen with Mrs. Kang, smiling, happy, completely normal. Except for the part where the koi pond outside the window started rippling. No wind, no rain, just water moving in perfect circles around the fish, like an invisible hand was stirring it. Please tell me that's a fountain, I whispered. It's not a fountain. Jiwoo's voice was tight. Your kid just moved water with his mind. I grabbed the tablet, watched the footage again. Minho laughing at something Mrs. Kang said. The water responding to his emotion, swirling faster, lifting fish into the air before gently setting them back down. Hydrokinesis. My 5-year-old son had hydrokinesis. This is impossible, I breathed. Omegas don't have powers. Alphas don't have powers. Nobody has powers. Clearly someone does. Taesung's expression was carved from stone. And if the parks find out, they'll want him even more. Yejun appeared in the doorway, face pale. A child with abilities, an alpha bloodline? He's not just leverage anymore. He's a weapon. The room spun. I sat down hard, head between my knees, trying to breathe through the panic clawing up my throat. 4 scent markers. 1 impossible child. Powers that shouldn't exist. What the hell happened 6 years ago? I whispered. Taesung crouched in front of me. His hand hovered near my shoulder, not quite touching. We're going to find out, I promise. And if the truth is worse than the mystery, his jaw set, then we handle it. Together. I don't do together. You do now. Jiwoo's voice cut through the haze. Because alone isn't an option anymore. Pretty thing. I looked up at 4 alphas surrounding me, protecting me, claiming me without permission. And for the first time in 6 years, I wasn't sure if I wanted to fight it. The water in the koi pond outside rippled again. Minho's laughter echoed through the halls. And somewhere in Seoul, the parks were planning their next move. We need to tell him, Yejun's voice broke the silence, about his abilities before he accidentally does something in public. He's 5, I snapped, standing up too fast. The room swayed. How am I supposed to explain hydrokinesis to a kindergartner? The same way you explain anything to kids. Jiwoo leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Simple words, no panic. Maybe throw in a superhero reference. This isn't a joke. I'm not joking. His smile faded. But keeping him in the dark is more dangerous than the truth. What happens when he gets scared at school and floods the classroom? I opened my mouth, closed it. He was right. God, I hated when he was right. Taesung's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his entire body went rigid. Everyone out, now! What's wrong? Minseo was already moving toward the window, scanning the courtyard. We have a visitor. Taesung's voice was ice. At the front gate, alone. Who? I demanded. He turned the phone toward me. Security footage showed a man in an expensive suit, hands raised in surrender. Mid-30s, handsome in that polished, corporate way, smiling at the camera like he didn't have a care in the world. That's Lee Donghyun, Yejun said quietly. Taesung's cousin, his second in command. Why does everyone look like they've seen a ghost? Because Donghyun is supposed to be in Busan. Taesung's grip on his phone tightened. Handling a shipment. Not here. Not now. Jiwoo pushed off the wall. You think he's... I think we're about to find out. Taesung headed for the door. Minseo, stay with Jiwon and the boy. Everyone else with me. Wait. I grabbed his arm without thinking. His scent spiked. Cedar and gunpowder mixing with something sharper. Possessive. What if it's a trap? Then I'll spring it. He looked down at my hand on his sleeve. Something flickered in his expression. Soft. Vulnerable. Gone in a heartbeat. Stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except us. He left before I could argue. Minseo moved to the window, silent as a shadow. I joined him, watching the courtyard below. Taesung, Jiwoo, and Yejun emerged from the main house, walking toward the gate with measured steps. Should we be worried? I asked. Always. Minseo's hand rested on the window frame. Casual, except I could see the tension in his shoulders. But if Donghyun wanted to attack, he wouldn't come alone. Unless he's arrogant enough to think he can. Or desperate enough to try. The gate opened. Donghyun stepped through, still smiling, still too calm. He said something. Taesung responded. Even from this distance, I could see the shift in body language. Aggression, challenge. Then Donghyun pulled something from his jacket. Gun! I shouted uselessly. But it wasn't a gun, it was a tablet. He held it up, showed them the screen. All three alphas went completely still. What is he showing them? I pressed closer to the glass. Minseo pulled out his phone, texted someone. A response came back in seconds. His face went pale. No! The word was barely a whisper. What? What is it? He turned the phone toward me. A photo. Time-stamped 6 years ago. Me in a hospital gown, unconscious, hooked up to IVs. And standing beside the bed, watching me with clinical detachment, was Donghyun. He was there, I breathed. That night, he was there. He's the one who disabled the cameras. Minseo's voice was hollow. He's the one who tampered with the suppressants. He orchestrated everything. My knees went weak. Why? Another text came through. This time a video file. Minseo hesitated, then pressed play. Donghyun's voice filled the room. Recorded. Probably by him. Bragging to someone off screen. The parks offered me Taesung's territory if I could give them leverage. What's better leverage than a secret child? So I made sure the pretty Omega went into heat. Made sure all 4 of them were too out of their minds to remember clearly. OneNight, 4 alphas, 1 desperate Omega? He laughed. I even made sure the doctor filed the paperwork under a fake name. Untraceable, until now. The video ended. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. 6 years. 6 years of believing it was my fault. That I'd been careless. That I'd made a mistake. But it was never my choice. It was never their choice. We were all just pieces in someone else's game. Jiwon. Minseo's hand touched my shoulder. Gentle. Grounding. Breathe. I sucked in air. Once. Twice. I'm going to kill him. Get in line. Below, Taesung moved. Fast. His fist connected with Donghyun's jaw with enough force to drop him. Jiwoo and Yejun grabbed his arms, hauling him back before he could do more damage. Donghyun stayed down, still smiling through split lips. He wanted to be caught, I realized. He wanted them to know. Insurance. Minseo's expression was carved from stone. He probably sent copies of that video to the parks, to the media, to everyone who matters. If something happens to him, it all goes public. So they can't kill him, not without consequences. I watched Tae-sung drag Dong-yun to his feet, watched Ye-jun's carefully controlled rage, watched Ji-woo's dangerous smile that promised pain. And I made a decision. I need to see him, I said. Jiwon, that's not... He manipulated me, used me, turned me into an incubator for his political games. My hands curled into fists. I deserved to look him in the eye. Min Seo studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Stay behind me. We left the room, moving through halls that suddenly felt less like sanctuary and more like a maze. Mrs. Kang passed us in the corridor, Minho's hand in hers. Mommy, he ran over. Mrs. Kang says I can feed the fish tomorrow. I forced a smile, kissed his forehead. That sounds fun, baby. Why don't you go pick out a bedtime story? I'll be there soon. Okay. He skipped off, oblivious. I envied him that innocence. The courtyard was tense when we arrived. Dong-yun sat on the ground, hands zip-tied behind his back. Blood dripped from his nose. His suit was torn, but he was still smiling. Ah, the Omega himself. His eyes tracked me like prey. You're even prettier than I remembered. Tae-sung moved to block his view. Say another word and I'll remove your tongue. You won't. Dong-yun's voice was smug. Because if anything happens to me, every news outlet in Seoul gets a very interesting story about 4 mafia bosses and their secret love child. You son of a... I stepped around Tae-sung, walked right up to Dong-yun, crouched down to his level. You made one mistake, I said quietly. Oh? And what's that? You assumed I was weak. I smiled, sweet, deadly. I'm not. Then I drove my fist into his face. His head snapped back. More blood, more pain. Worth it. Ji-woo whooped. That's my Omega. Not yours, I corrected, standing up and shaking out my hand. Not anyone's. Got it? 4 pairs of eyes stared at me. Heat, possession, respect. Got it, Tae-sung said softly. Dong-yun spat blood. This changes nothing. The parks still want the boy. They'll still come for him. Let them try. My voice didn't shake, didn't waver. They'll learn the same lesson you just did. I turned and walked back toward the house. Behind me, I heard Tae-sung's cold command. Lock him up. No food, no water. We'll decide what to do with him later. Good. Drop a comment and tell me what you would do to Dong-yun. And don't forget to subscribe because next part is going to get intense. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. I made it 3 steps before my hands started throbbing. Punching someone hurt a lot more than movies made it look. My knuckles were already swelling, skin split across 2 fingers. Let me see. Ye-jun appeared beside me, catching my wrist gently. His scent wrapped around me, vanilla and something darker, comforting despite everything. It's fine. It's not. He guided me toward the main house, not letting go. You hit him hard enough to break skin, probably bruise the bone. Good, hope it hurt. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. It definitely did, but you're the one who's going to feel it tomorrow. We reached the kitchen. Empty now. Mrs. Kang had taken Minho somewhere else. Smart woman. Ye-jun pulled out a first aid kit from under the sink like he'd done this 1,000 times before. Probably had. Sit. He gestured to the counter stool. I sat, watching him work. His hands were steady as he cleaned the blood away. Gentle, like I was something fragile instead of something that just punched a man in the face. You didn't have to do that, he said quietly. Hit him. I mean, we would have handled it. I know, but I needed to. I flexed my fingers, wincing. 6 years. 6 years of thinking I was the one who messed up. That I'd been careless, reckless. That Minho was my consequence to bear alone. He's not a consequence. Ye-jun's eyes met mine, brown and warm and sad. He's a gift, one we didn't deserve but got anyway. Pretty words from a mafia underboss. I'm more than that. He wrapped gauze around my knuckles with practiced precision. Just like you're more than an Omega who happened to get pregnant. Am I? The question came out bitter. Because from where I'm sitting, that's exactly what I am. An incubator. A tool. Someone's game piece. No. His grip on my hand tightened, just slightly. You're the person who saved four strangers without asking questions, who raised a child alone in a foreign country, who walked back into the lion's den because you thought it might keep him safe. You're brave, stubborn, infuriating. His thumb brushed across my wrist, right over those four silvery scent markers. And you're ours, whether Dongyun planned it or not. My breath caught. I'm not anyone's. Not yet. He secured the gauze with tape. But you will be, when you're ready. And if I'm never ready, then we wait. Simple, like it was that easy. As long as it takes. The door burst open. Jiwoo strode in, expression darker than I'd ever seen it. We have a problem. Another one. I pulled my hand back from Yejun's. At this rate, we should just expect problems every 10 minutes. This one's bigger. He held up his phone. Donghyun wasn't bluffing. He sent files to 3 news outlets before he came here. Videos, photos, medical records, everything. My stomach dropped. When do they publish? 6 hours, unless we give them a reason not to. What kind of reason? Taesung appeared in the doorway, blood on his knuckles. His, Dongyun's, hard to tell. The kind that involves ending the Park family's operations permanently, tonight. You're going after them. It wasn't a question. We don't have a choice. Minseo emerged behind Taesung, already dressed in tactical gear. Black, efficient, terrifying. If those files go public, every rival family in Seoul will come after Minho. He'll never be safe. So you're starting a war. We're ending one. Taesung's voice was ice. The Parks have been pushing boundaries for years, using Dongyun to manipulate us. This stops tonight. And if you don't come back? The question hung in the air, heavy, real. Yejun stood, moved to the counter, and pulled out a small wooden box. Inside was a key, a phone, and a stack of documents. Bank accounts, passports, emergency contacts, everything you need to disappear if this goes wrong. I don't want to disappear. My voice shook despite my best efforts. I want you to come back. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. Jiwoo's smile was sharp, broken. That's how we've survived this long. I hate this. I stood up, fists clenched. I hate that you're making me care, making Minho care, and now you're going to go play hero and possibly get killed. Not a hero. Taesung stepped closer. His scent was overwhelming. Cedar and gunpowder and something raw underneath. Fear, maybe? Just a man protecting what's his. I'm not yours. Keep telling yourself that. His hand cupped my jaw, rough calluses against skin. Maybe one day you'll believe it. Then he kissed me, hard, desperate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of me before walking into hell. I should have pulled away, should have slapped him, should have reminded him that consent was a thing. Instead, I kissed him back, my hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, his arms wrapped around my waist, anchoring me against him. The kiss deepened, turned hungry, 6 years of longing and regret and anger burning between us. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Come back, I whispered against his mouth. All of you, come back alive. I will. He pressed his forehead to mine. For you, for him, for us. There is no us. Not yet. He echoed Yejun's words. But there will be. He let go, stepped back. Minseo handed him a gun. Yejun checked his vest. Jiwoo spun a knife between his fingers, that dangerous smile back in place. Stay in the East Wing, Taesung ordered. Mrs. Kang and 4 guards will remain. Don't open the door for anyone except us. And if the Parks come here instead, they won't. Minseo's voice was certain. We're hitting their base of operations, drawing them out. They'll be too busy defending themselves to attack. You hope. We know. Jiwoo winked. Trust us, pretty thing. We're very good at what we do. They headed for the door. I followed, watching from the threshold as they climbed into 2 black SUVs. Engines roared to life. Headlights cut through the darkness. Taesung looked back. Just once. Our eyes met across the courtyard. Then they were gone. I stood there long after the tail lights disappeared. Long after the sound of engines faded. Long after my heart remembered how to beat normally. Mrs. Kang appeared beside me, silent, understanding. They always come back, she said softly. How do you know? Because they have something worth coming back for now. She gestured toward the east wing. Your son is asking for you. Something about the water in his bath moving funny. Oh God, his powers. I ran. The east wing hallway blurred past. My heart hammered against my ribs. Not from exertion, from fear. The kind that only parents know. The terror that something's wrong with your child and you weren't there to stop it. I burst through the bathroom door. Minho sat in the tub, fully clothed, eyes wide with wonder. The water around him moved in spirals, perfect geometric patterns that defied gravity. Droplets hung suspended in the air, like crystal ornaments, catching the light. Mommy, look! His face lit up. I made the water dance. My knees hit the tile. Hard. I couldn't look away from the impossible physics happening in a children's bathtub. Baby, my voice cracked. How long has this been happening? I don't know. He reached out, and a sphere of water lifted from the tub, floating to his palm. It started when I got sad about the tall men leaving. The water made me feel better. The sphere collapsed, splashed back down. Minho's bottom lip trembled. Did I do something bad? No. I crawled forward, pulled him into my arms, soaking wet clothes and all. No, baby, you didn't do anything bad. You're just special. Special how? How did you explain hydrokinesis to a 5-year-old? How did you tell your son he could manipulate water with his mind without scaring him? Without making him feel like a freak? Remember those superhero movies you love? I brushed wet hair from his forehead. How they have powers that make them different? He nodded, eyes huge. You have a power too. You can talk to water, make it move, shape it, control it. Like Aquaman. Close enough. Yeah, like Aquaman. Cool. His grin was pure sunshine. Then it faltered. But superheroes have to hide their powers, right? So bad guys don't find them? Smart kid. Too smart. Right. So we keep this our secret for now. Just you and me and the tall men, okay? Okay. He hugged me tight. Mommy, are the tall men coming back? Yes. I made my voice certain, confident, even though I had no idea if it was true. They'll be back soon. Good. I like them. Especially the one with the scar. He looks scary, but his eyes are nice. Tai-sung. My son liked Tai-sung. Of course he did. I helped Minho out of the tub, got him into dry clothes, and tucked him into the smaller bedroom. Mrs. Kang had already prepared it. Dinosaur sheets, nightlight, stuffed elephant on the pillow. Story, he asked hopefully. Short one. It's late. I read him a book about a dragon who was afraid of heights. By the 3rd page, his eyes were drooping. By the 5th, he was asleep. I kissed his forehead, breathing in his scent, milk and sunshine and innocence. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. My heart stopped. Unknown. Warehouse District. Incheon. Bring the boy. Come alone. You have 1 hour or we start sending pieces of your alphas back to you. A photo followed. Tai-sung, Jiwoo, Yejun, Minseo. All 4 bound to chairs in what looked like an abandoned warehouse. Blood on their faces, guns pointed at their heads. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the phone. Another message. Tick-tock, Omega. I stared at the screen, at 4 alphas who'd promised to come back, who'd kissed me like it mattered, who'd looked at my son like he was precious instead of leverage. And now they were bait. I could call the police, but corrupt cops probably put them there. I could run, take Minho and disappear into the night, but they'd hunt us forever. Or I could do what they wanted, walk into a trap, trade myself and Minho for 4 alphas who might already be dead. My phone buzzed again. Unknown, 50 minutes. Don't test us. I looked at Minho, sleeping peacefully, unaware that the world wanted to turn him into a weapon. Then I made a decision. I walked to the closet, found a jacket, and checked the pockets. The key to the gun safe Tai-sung had shown me. Just in case, he'd said. Just in case had arrived. I unlocked the safe. Inside were 3 handguns, ammunition, and a knife that looked like it could gut a bear. I'd never fired a gun in my life. Medical school didn't exactly cover firearms training, but I was a fast learner. I loaded one gun, checked the safety, shoved it in my waistband. The knife went in my boot, the second gun in my jacket pocket. Then I grabbed my phone and typed a message to Mrs. Kang. Keep Minho safe. Don't let him leave this room. No matter what happens. I hit send. Took one last look at my sleeping son and walked out the door. The courtyard was empty, guards patrolling the perimeter. None of them noticed me slip into the garage. Keys hung on a board. I grabbed the ones labeled SUV. The engine roared to life, too loud. A guard turned. I floored it. The gate was closed, locked. I aimed the SUV at it and prayed the thing was as reinforced as it looked. Impact. Metal screamed. The gate buckled, held. I reversed. Tried again. This time it gave. I burst through onto the main road, tires squealing. Seoul at night was neon and shadows. I followed the GPS toward Incheon, toward the warehouse district, toward 4 ALPHAS and whatever hell waited. My phone rang. Mrs. Kang, I ignored it. It rang again. Unknown number. I answered. I'm coming. Alone. Don't hurt them. Smart Omega. The voice was smooth, cultured, Park family. You have 30 minutes. Gates are open. Drive straight in. Any tricks and we kill them all. The line went dead. My hands gripped the steering wheel, white-knuckled, shaking. I wasn't a fighter, wasn't a hero, wasn't brave. But I was a parent, and parents did impossible things for their children, even if it meant walking into hell. The warehouse appeared ahead, rusted metal, broken windows, perfect place for an execution. I parked outside the open gate, cut the engine, checked my gun one more time, then I stepped out into the night. I'm here! My voice echoed across empty concrete. Let them go! Lights flooded on, blinding. I raised my hand against the glare. When my vision cleared, I saw them. 4 ALPHAS, bloodied, bound, but alive. And behind them 20 armed men. At the center stood a man in an expensive suit, 50s, silver hair, Predator's smile, Park Jin-soo, head of the Park family. Welcome, Omega, he gestured to the ALPHAS. As you can see, your mates are still breathing. For now. Let them go. You have me. That's what you wanted, right? Oh, I want much more than that. His smile widened. I want the boy. He's not here. I know, which is why you're going to call that compound and have him brought here. Or I start with the pretty one. He pressed a gun to Yejun's temple. Yejun's eyes found mine. Fierce, desperate. Don't. You'll kill them anyway, I said. Probably. But this way they get to watch you make the choice. Them or the child. Love or blood. It's poetic, really. My hand moved to the gun in my waistband. 20 weapons trained on me instantly. I wouldn't. Park's voice was silk. You're outnumbered, outgunned. The only reason you're still alive is because I'm enjoying this. He was right. I was going to die here. They were all going to die here. Unless I closed my eyes, reached inward, toward that thing I'd spent 6 years ignoring, that genetic impossibility that marked my wrist in 4 colors. Help me, I thought desperately. Please. And somewhere in the compound, in a child's bedroom, Minho's eyes opened. The water in every pipe in the warehouse started to scream. Metal groaned. Rust flaked. The sound was deafening, primal, like the building itself was waking up angry. Park's smile faltered. What is? The pipes burst. Water exploded from every direction. Not random, not chaotic, controlled, precise. It slammed into the armed men like a living thing, knocking guns from hands, sweeping legs out from under bodies. I opened my eyes, felt the connection humming in my blood. Minho wasn't here, but somehow, impossibly, we were linked. His power flowing through those 4 scent markers on my wrist, through me. Impossible, Park breathed. You have no idea. I raised my hand. The water responded, rose up in a wave that separated me from the gunman. A barrier, a shield, beautiful and terrifying. Taesung's eyes widened. Jiwon, how are you? Later. I focused on the water, bending it to my will. It felt natural, like breathing, like it had been waiting inside me all along. I sent tendrils toward the alphas, slicing through their restraints with pressurized streams. They fell forward, gasping. Jiwoo caught himself first, rolled, grabbed a fallen gun. "Cover!" Minseo shouted. Chaos erupted, gunfire, shouting. But every bullet that came near me hit a wall of water and dropped harmlessly to the ground. Park ran for the exit. Tai-sung tackled him. They went down hard, fists flying. Blood splattered concrete. "Jiwon, behind you!" Yejun's warning came too late. Pain exploded in my shoulder. I'd been shot. The water barrier flickered, dropped. "No!" 4 alpha voices, 1 word. Perfect harmony. Their scents hit me simultaneously. Cedar and gunpowder, leather and smoke, rain and stone, vanilla and caramel. All of them reaching for me through invisible threads I hadn't known existed. The scent markers on my wrist ignited. Not pain, power. The water answered their call too. It rose higher, faster. A tsunami contained in a warehouse. It swept through the remaining gunmen like they were toys, slammed them into walls, held them there, unconscious but breathing. Park struggled under Tai-sung's grip. "You can't kill me. My family will—" "Your family is finished." Tai-sung's fist connected with his jaw. Once. Twice. "You threatened our mate, our son. That's a death sentence." "Our?" I gasped, clutching my bleeding shoulder. Minseo was there instantly, pressing fabric against the wound. "Easy. Bullet went through. You'll be okay." "Our mate," I repeated. "All 4 of us." Yejun knelt beside me. His hand found mine, squeezed. "Those markers on your wrist, that's a pack bond, rare, ancient. We didn't know it was possible until tonight. So Minho belongs to all of us." Jiwoo grinned despite the blood on his face. 4 fathers, 1 impossible kid. Best origin story ever. Sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights painted the warehouse walls. "Choi's men," Tai-sung said, standing over Park's unconscious body. "I called them before we got taken. Insurance. You planned this?" I winced as Minseo tightened the makeshift bandage. "Planned to get captured? No. Planned for every contingency? Always." His dark eyes found mine, soft, vulnerable. "I wasn't going to lose you again." Detective Choi burst through the door, gun drawn, a dozen officers behind him. He took in the scene. Unconscious gunmen, standing water, 4 bloodied alphas surrounding 1 injured Omega, and stopped. "I'm not even going to ask." He holstered his weapon. "Park? Unconscious, alive. Recorded confession on my phone." Tai-sung tossed it over. "Everything you need to dismantle his organization." Choi caught it, almost smiled. "You're still under investigation for about 15 different crimes. Put it on my tab." The ride back to the compound was silent, tense. I sat between Yejun and Minseo, Tai-sung driving, Jiwoo in the passenger seat. My shoulder throbbed, my hands shook, but I was alive. We were all alive. The gate opened before we reached it. Mrs. Kang stood in the courtyard. Minho in her arms. The moment he saw me, he started crying. "Mommy!" I stumbled out of the SUV, caught him as he launched himself at me. Ignored the pain in my shoulder because nothing mattered except this. His small body against mine. Safe. Whole. "You came back," he sobbed into my neck. "Always." I kissed his hair. "Always, baby." 4 alphas surrounded us. A circle, a shield, a family. "I felt you," Minho whispered. "In my head. You needed help, so I sent the water." "You saved us." I pulled back, cupped his face. "You're so brave." "We're all brave." He looked at the alphas. "Right, ALPHAS." 4 grown men went completely still. "Say that again," Tai-sung breathed. "ALPHAS." Minho grinned. "All of you." Mrs. Kang explained about pack bonds, about how sometimes families are different, about how I get 4 dads instead of 1. "4 dads," Jiwoo repeated, voice rough. Yeah, that works." "More than works." Yejun knelt down. "Minho, is it okay if we stay? If we're part of your family?" "Duh." My son rolled his eyes with all the sass of someone 3 times his age. You're already my family. You just didn't know it yet. Kids, wise beyond their years. I looked at 4 alphas, at their hope, their fear, their love written across bruised faces and bloody knuckles. One condition, I said. Anything, they said in unison. No more secrets, no more running. We figure this out together, or not at all. Together! Taesung stepped closer. His hand found my waist, careful of my injury. I can do together. Me too, Yejun said. Same, from Minseo. Obviously, Jiwoo winked. Then I guess we're doing this. I looked at each of them. Fair warning, I'm stubborn, sassy, and I don't take orders well. We noticed. Taesung's smile was real, warm, beautiful. We wouldn't want you any other way. He kissed me, gentle this time, sweet, a promise instead of goodbye. When he pulled back, Yejun was waiting. His kiss was softer, reverent. Then Minseo, quiet intensity. Finally Jiwoo, playful and heated and perfect. Minho made a face. Gross. You'll understand when you're older, I said. Never. He squirmed out of my arms. Can we have pancakes? I'm starving. It's 3 in the morning, Minseo pointed out. So? We almost died. We deserve pancakes. Kid's got a point. Jiwoo headed toward the kitchen. Who's helping? I will. Yejun followed. Taesung pulled out his phone. I need to coordinate with Choi. Make sure Park stays locked up. I'll help. Minseo squeezed my good shoulder. Get that looked at. They dispersed, leaving me and Minho in the courtyard. The koi pond rippled, responding to my son's happiness. Mommy? He tugged my hand. Are we staying here? Forever? I looked at the compound, at the home these 4 alphas had built, at the family we'd accidentally become. Yeah, baby, I smiled. I think we are. Good, he yawned, because I really like the fish. Me too, kid. Me too. 6 years ago, I ran from 4 alphas because I thought I had to protect my son alone. Tonight I learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let people in, even if they're mafia bosses with terrible timing and even worse communication skills, even if they come as a package deal, even if loving them means rewriting every rule you thought you knew. Because family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's 4 alphas, 1 omega, and a kid who can move water with his mind. And sometimes that's exactly enough. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. Want more emotionally intense, beautifully chaotic stories like this? Subscribe now so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything, and I can't wait to bring you more addictive tales. Until next time, stay beautiful.